It is June 16th, 2018. We're going to take a look at our unit number 110. This is a 2014, I believe, Sprinter 170 with 12 seats, a 6-cylinder diesel engine, and of course an automatic transmission. It's in great shape. This vehicle's never been in an accident. I'm not really aware of any dents on this particular Sprinter, except for a couple teeny tiny ones on the hood. Here's a little scratch that'd come out with rubbing compound, no problem. It's not deep at all. For those of you who aren't familiar with Sprinters, these rear doors will open 270 degrees if you want them to. It's really handy if you've got large cargo to load. Here's the maintenance book, and I was just going through it here. 6518 new serpentine belt tensioner, 65 both serpentine belts, 314 service transmission, wiper blades 35, front brake pads, rotors, wear sensors 118. Differential oil 82217, battery 72017, engine air filter and cabin air filter 41017, service transmission again, blah blah blah, sway bar link 12316 at 256,000 miles, new starter at 243,000 miles, rear brakes at 242,000 miles on 10.5 of 16, differential oil again, entire driveline 72016. That is with an aftermarket drive shaft, which is really cool because it's got Zerk fittings on it and the U-joints are replaceable. The stock Mercedes drive shaft has U-joints that are not replaceable. Serpentine belt sensor, blah blah blah. Also, it's got a new alternator, new intake manifolds, and some other stuff. So we service these Sprinters every 5,000 miles, oil change with synthetic, and trying to find the invoices from Stoops Freightliner. Let's see here. This is getting a little boring, isn't it? Safety inspection. Headlights, here we go. Check engine light, could not duplicate concern. $516 for nothing. That always makes me happy. I imagine that it did get resolved. Let's see here. Check engine light on 8/14/2017. We put a lot of money into it on that day. Oh, I guess not that much. $495. Temperature sensor, $266 and a bunch of labor. The emissions system requires a little attention from time to time. Thermostat. Well, anyhow, so we've got new intake manifolds and a new alternator at the same time. I guess we got to go pretty far back to find that. Here we go. Alternator. Coolant circulation pump noisy. Fuel temp sensor. So the main thing that happened there was alternator and a temperature sensor. Anyhow, we spare no expense to keep these babies running well. Anyhow, so we've got full maintenance records on these. They're very well cared for. The ceiling is very clean. There's a few marks, but nothing major. There tends to marks tend to develop around the perimeter of this vent here just from dirt, particulates in the airflow. Sometimes it's difficult to get all the dirt out, but this is a nice clean ceiling, as you can see. Alright, if you're not nauseous from that, we'll take a look at the seats. Backs are in good shape. Looks like I got some dirt on my lens. And we'll take a look at the cushions to the extent we can from here. Uh-oh. Some dirt. Mostly particles of terry cloth from the cleaning rag I used earlier. Alright, we'll hit that other bench seat. Now, the carpet that you see on the floor is actually not included. I guess it could be for about $800, but I'd rather just hang on to it. There's a few specks of dust on the seats here. Alright, and the walls are in good shape. Now, we have these USB charging outlets on the left side. Those are really handy. But not on the right side. There is a laptop mount here. This is made by a company in Seattle. I can't remember the name of it. But there's this big ball that is attached to the seat, and it's got a rubber coating on it, so that absorbs some shock. And then you can turn this and that'll loosen that connection and the ball connection up there, and so it's kind of infinitely adjustable. And there are 4 circles of Velcro that you can use to stick your laptop to that. That is included. Stuff up here is not included. There is a dash cam and of course a toll pass. Those are not included. We got a little router here for Wi-Fi. That's kind of cool, but that's not included. However, the wiring will be left intact, so if you want to put something there, you can. Here's a view towards the back. Guess we might as well look at the passenger seat. So as you can see, the door is in good shape. No problems there. Passenger seat upholstery is just fine. No damage to the floor. Driver's seat also good. The lighting's not really very good here. It's too contrasty. But the dashboard's in good shape, except for that. What is that? So, I think people must let their feet rub against the dashboard when they're riding. This is the second Sprinter with that kind of mark on the dash. So then, did we cover the back walls? They're in good shape. There's a couple little marks from luggage, and there may be a couple places where the vinyl is pierced. There's one. But overall, the walls are in good shape. Doors close properly. They don't rattle an unusual amount. Pretty quiet. So let's take a look at this side. I'm not seeing any dents at all. Sprinter's had a pretty good life, I think. Oh, here we go. I knew we'd find a dent eventually. Looks like a piece of road debris hit here, and then we touched it up. It's not on the curbside, so it's kind of hard to spot. Oops, I thought I had already popped the hood. but I'm wrong. This vehicle has an ELD. We'll be taking that out, of course. Or if you want to buy it for the cost of a new Keller ELD, we could leave it in. It's wired nicely. We've got a spare port here so you can hook up to the ODB2. Okay, so I think this is what you call an engine. This is a 6-cylinder diesel, and we change the oil with synthetic every 5,000 miles roughly. Sometimes it goes a little over, but if it does, then the next oil change comes sooner. On average, it's about 5,000 miles. As I mentioned, the idler pulleys have recently been replaced. We like to replace the idlers and the belts as a wear item because it's really a pain in the butt to have a belt break or an idler go bad when you're trying to use the vehicle. So I'll start it up. It's very hot today. The mileage is 355,947. Starts right up, no alarms except for door open, and that's because the door is open. There's no unusual noises, no skipped beats. So we'll go ahead and take it for a drive now. All right, here we go. Okay, so the windshield is not perfect, it turns out. There are two little rock chips there, and there's one up here. We pay $200 to have a windshield swapped out, and I think the cost of the glass is about $180 from Stoops Freightliner. And then there's a little trim strip you also have to buy. I think that might be about $30. So windshields aren't cheap, but they're also not the end of the world to replace. So here we go. The last Sprinter we sold had, whoops, here comes another one. The last Sprinter we sold had a rather elderly transmission. Well, less elderly than this one, but it wasn't behaving quite as nicely as this one. This one shifts smoothly and doesn't do anything weird. Don't know why the lens is so dirty. Might have something to do with exposure to dirt. So I'll just turn right on Route 45 here. This is moderate acceleration. No unusual noises. Speed limit here is 55 though, so I can't get too aggressive. I think I better make a U-turn, and then we'll go up on the interstate for a second. So I've got no traffic behind me. I'm at 55. I'm going to stop on the brakes. Well, that brought the emergency triangles forward. Anyhow, it didn't pull to the side at all when I did that. I could have stopped a little harder on the brakes then, but since I heard things flying forward, I backed off just a little bit. Let's do it again. 55, full feet. Hand was off the wheel, and it didn't pull at all. Alright. Now I'm experiencing a little vertigo. So I'm going to turn on the air conditioner because it's darn hot. The way this works is you've got front controls on the right or on the left, and I'll put an AC on, recirculate on, and then I'll turn the rear blower on, crank that up a bit, set the temperature towards the cold end of the spectrum. Now this is a little dumb. Somebody set it all the way to the lowest possible setting. That's not going to make it any colder. Anyhow, so we've got both blowers running, and I'm getting hit with the air from the front unit, of course, and it's good cold air. It's not struggling to produce cold air at all. It's just, this is very cold air. Air conditioning is working properly. We can't stay in business if our AC doesn't work, so we maintain them properly. So I'll go ahead and turn this back off now, so that you can hear the engine and transmission instead of the blowers. Only got 11 minutes left before the camera stops recording, so I'll have to wrap this up. We're going to get on Interstate 74 up here, and I'll just go an exit or two and turn around and come back. So there's nobody behind me. We're going 50, and I'm going to stop on the brakes again. And as you can see, the steering wheel didn't move at all. So I think we got the brakes pretty well covered, right? So full throttle, which is not necessarily a good idea, but for a demonstration, I guess, well, it wasn't full throttle, it was most of the way. But then it turns out there was more travel. The beeping that you hear is the dash cam telling me I'm going over 72. Anyhow, I got to back off a little bit. So this Sprinter does not have the 74 mile an hour limitation that the Unit 109 did. I did a test drive video of that a couple weeks ago, and it wouldn't go over 74 or 75. That was an option that we purchased to keep drivers from going too fast. So there's no unusual, I'm not hearing any unusual suspension noises or anything like that. In the steering wheel, I feel just a very slight, it's not really play, it's just kind of a little bit of a creak. And I imagine that means that the tie rod ends or something are getting towards the end of their life. But it's a very subtle feel. I'm kind of picky about this sort of stuff, and I notice very minor flaws easily. I'm not sure anybody else would pick up on it. Maybe. But just in the interest of full disclosure, there is that. So, good acceleration. Again, the beeping is the dash cam complaining that I'm going over 70. Sprinter's been a real trooper. We had to replace the biggest thing we had to do was replace the intake manifolds, and alternator and starter aren't too surprising with this mileage on it, but generally speaking, this has been a pretty good loyal vehicle. Road's a little rough here. So there's a merge about 2 miles ahead, and everybody freaks out rather early of it. Alright, so we'll get off here. Not really sure what else there is to add. It's a pretty darn good van. So I guess I'll cut it here and take it back to the garage. Hopefully you've gotten a pretty good sense of vehicle from Arlo Drive. Very bumpy road here. I forgot to mention one thing. This Sprinter has real horns. It doesn't have the stupid little stock meep meep Roadrunner horn. It's got real horns. Excuse me. The thing is that this camera has auto audio level, so it's not going to be able to get a sense of how loud the horns are, but they're plenty loud. Much better than the little Roadrunner horns. Alright, that's all. Wait, we can't leave that hanging. There we go.